You're watching France 24, and it's that time of the day again where we look through the international press for you. And Ginty Jackson has joined me now in the studio. Ginty, of course, Queen Marie Antoinette allegedly told French rioters that they should eat cake if the baguettes had run out. A few centuries later, and food shortages are back in the headlines.
Food shortages are back in the headlines. We'll have to see if people can still afford bread. For the moment, no actual riots, but we do have headlines like these in the French daily Le Parisien, and that translates as prices have literally gone crazy. Les prix sont fous. The paper tells us that inflation is running at its highest point in almost 20 years. Also taking some really concrete examples from the supermarket trolleys. Let's have a look at those. Eggs, for example, are now costing consumers 13% more than they did a year ago. Milk's gone up 11%. And people are apparently more and more angry about this. Consumers are hurting. They say their salaries just aren't keeping up. For the moment, no riots as we're seeing in Haiti and places like Egypt. But people interviewed by the paper say they're definitely cutting back on vacation budgets for the moment.
Now, the Pope's visit to America is making news as well, a visit that seems to have rather eclipsed the travel plans of another world leader. You see, that's a bad piece of diary planning there. Never turn up at the same place as the Pope. You're bound to be eclipsed. Tell us who's in a sulk.
Well, Gordon Brown, poor old Gordon Brown. Once again, he's making headlines in the UK's Guardian with a rather tongue-in-cheek headline. The US prepares a rapturous welcome for world leader. And the PM is there too. So, yes, he's getting overshadowed by the cleric from Bavaria. The Guardian notes the huge coverage that the pontiff is getting across the major US papers, but the British Prime Minister is really not featuring there at all. He's really being forgotten. The visit was billed by Downing Street as the most important possibly so far in his premiership, however.
See, we should have sent the Queen, Ginty. That would have been a more even match, wouldn't it?
Possibly more even match,
Yeah.
yes. Pomp and circumstance, you can't beat that. The diary clashes are getting worse and worse. It doesn't stop there. On Friday, Brown is supposed to be speaking about foreign policy and how global institutions, particularly the UN, should be reforming. But same day, the Pope is going to be speaking at the UN General Assembly itself, so we'll have to see who gets some more publicity there.
You just can't win, can you, really? Well, let's move on to the Moscow Times. Two leaders there are a little bit more in sync. Hooray.
Yes, hooray, hooray. Vladimir Putin is going to be the first world leader to meet Italy's soon-to-be Prime Minister, Silvio Berlusconi. Now, the two are obviously old friends, and they'll be taking up where they left off when Berlusconi was last in office. They're due to meet Thursday and Friday in a luxury villa owned by Berlusconi on the island of Sardinia. Apparently it's going to be more of a friendly visit than anything else, not just a working visit. But it's interesting the way I thought Berlusconi's advisors are describing the meeting as two future prime ministers meeting each other, sort of glossing over the fact that, in fact, Russia's about to have a new president. But yeah.
Yes, indeed. So someone else being eclipsed there. That's not very good. Well, finally, Ginty, you promised us a hot film about Marilyn Monroe that's become very hot property.
Indeed. The New York businessman, who remains anonymous for the moment, has just bought a 15-minute Marilyn Monroe film for $1.5 million. Now, the film was shot back sometime in her heyday. No one really knows by whom. And it's a kinky black and white film. I'm not going to be able to go into the details of exactly what she gets up to on air. But it's been the property of a memorabilia collector for years now. Apparently, former FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover was obsessed. He always tried to prove that it was JFK who was in the film, but never managed. And apparently the new owner says that he won't be posting it on the internet. Don't worry, he's keeping it just for his private viewing out of respect for Marilyn.
Thank you very much indeed for that very scintillating press review. Ginty Jackson, stay tuned to France 24. Thank you.